Hello, my name is Marian Bongkak. I'm a research associate at the Planetary and Global Health Program of the St. Luke's Medical Center College of Medicine, William H. Pasha Memorial. And on behalf of my teammates, Dr. Renzo Quinto and Mara de los Santos, I will present the findings of our study entitled Rapid Qualitative Multi-Method Assessment of the Impacts of the COVID-19 Pandemic on Wet Market Biosecurity and Local Food Security in the Philippines. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, wet markets were perceived as potential sources of novel zoonotic diseases due to the sale of live animals. Meanwhile, wet markets were also heavily impacted by the pandemic due to various hastily enforced restrictions. This study examined the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on wet markets in the Philippines, specifically on biosecurity reforms and the restrictions' effect on local food security. This exploratory qualitative research study utilized a multi-method approach consisting of media analysis, policy review, key informant interviews, and rapid ethnography in an urban and rural wet market in the Philippines. Data were cataloged, processed, and synthesized using thematic analysis. In the context of biosecurity, pandemic restrictions, primarily movement restrictions, were found to be partly responsible for the decrease in the sale of wildlife in markets known as wildlife trade hubs. As part of the pandemic response, only a few additional hygiene and sanitation practices were enforced at wet markets, including the use of plastic barriers and the conduct of more intense market disinfection. Furthermore, it was revealed that wet market stakeholders were excluded during the policy creation and implementation of the pandemic restrictions, even as wet markets were perceived as essential services. Hence, the restrictions triggered a chain reaction across the food supply chain that unveiled underlying food system vulnerabilities, primarily the lack of financial capacity of small-scale producers to fully adapt and withstand sudden and prolonged disruptions to the economy. Ultimately, food prices increased, while alternative methods of food distribution, such as online retailing and satellite markets, emerged. Despite the additional temporary hygiene and sanitation practices enforced during the pandemic and the consequent decrease in the sale of wildlife, overall wet market biosecurity still needs to be further improved. Additionally, the restrictions greatly affected the local food supply, which disproportionately impacted both small-scale producers as well as low-income consumers. Moving forward, there is a need to apply a proactive, whole-of-society approach to pandemic response, especially in wet markets. Different sectors must exercise greater communication and collaboration in order to mitigate the negative impacts on local food security and maximize the positive benefits of improving biosecurity. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any questions, you may send them to my email as flashed in the slide. Thank you very much.